Okay, you guys are going to need your laptops today. This is going to count as a test grade when we're done with it. Project we're doing. Okay, homework that was due today was you were supposed to have 6 pictures that were downloaded onto your laptop so that you could pull them up when we go into Desmos.com. So you go into Desmos.com and you're going to click on the graphing calculator. So the goal of what we're doing today is something that students start in their freshman year. And so what you were supposed to do is take a picture of something. There's an equation of a vertical line, parallel lines, a parabola, that's the next function we're working on, exponentials, logarithms, circles, ellipses, and your trig functions. And so that's the goal for us today, is to use Desmos to create equations from our pictures. I mean, we're already doing on the paper that we did Wednesday, we created equations from a picture on the paper. Now we're actually going to create equations for our own pictures. When you go into the graphing calculator, if you have an account, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if you already have an account with Desmos. That's the one that you want to use. If you don't have an account with Desmos, then just sign in and use your school account. Let's start with, what I want to do right now is I want to create a box. And I want to create a box because that means that you're going to be able to restrict your domain and restrict your range. And you have to be able to do that on the project that we're doing. So today we are going to start by, let's go into the wrench where the settings are. And let's get rid of the minor grid lines. And let's go by steps of 1 for our x-axis and our y-axis. And I probably need to zoom out a little bit or zoom in. What is going on? There we go. Mine's going to look a little different because of being plugged into the projector. So it makes you should have a 10 by 10 grid right now. So going by steps of 1, we want to create a box. And so I'm going to start with the top of the box. And I'm just going to say y equals 3. So we're getting used to, if you've not used Desmos before or you haven't used a lot of different things in here, y equals 3. There's my horizontal line. And if I zoomed out, it'd be going to infinity right now. And so I can change the color of it by clicking and holding down on the red. You can change it to whatever color you want. You have the thickness of the line that you could change the thickness. It looks like it's at 2.5 right now. You can change it to whatever you want. I'm just showing you where the different things are on here so that when you go to create your picture, then you'll have some idea of what's going on. All right, so there's my line. But what I need to do is I need to restrict it. So what am I actually trying to restrict here? Here's my horizontal line. I want it to stop at -4 and 4. What do you think I'm going to do to restrict that line between -4 and 4? What am I trying to restrict? What part of the coordinate grid? The Cartesian plane. If I said domain, what would I be trying to restrict then? What does domain stand for? Domain has to do with the x. Okay, so I want to restrict my x's. So I need to say that x needs to be greater than -4 and less than 4. And how you do that is I'm going to space bar, and then I'm going to use, let's see, I think it's the squiggly brackets. And I'm going to say that I'm going from -4, and my x is going to have to be greater than that. So you can just see it just cut off the left-hand side where x is less than -4. There's nothing there now. I've restricted it. I said x needs to be greater than -4. And it also needs to be, this is a compound inequality, it also needs to be less than, my signs are going in the same direction, 4. And then close the squiggly bracket. So that's how you restrict the domain. You write in an equation, and then after it, use the squiggly brackets. If you're restricting the domain, that's the x. So x has to be less than and greater than some number. Okay, make the bottom of the box. I want to be down at -3. want you to make the bottom of the box. There's the top of the box. So what you're going to do is just click down below that, and you can click as many as you want, and it brings up all kinds of places for you to click as many equations as you want to. So in the second one, you are going to create the equation of the bottom part of this box. Make sure the colors on your lines match, the thickness, whatever you did to the first one, you should be doing the same thing to the second one. So I see a lot of typing going on and getting it in there, and I'm just going to give you a shortcut right now because you're going to do this a lot in your projects. Because the picture project's not the only one that we do. I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy and paste it. Copy. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to paste, and I'm going to put, I want to be at -3. Hello, line. It copies everything for you. But I do notice I don't think the thickness is the same. So what did I put on this one? 4. And I just need to change the thickness to 4 on that one. All right. Give me a thumbs up if you got the top and bottom of your box. Thank you. Good, good. Excellent. Thank you very much. Good. Thank you, Eva. Thank you. So the next thing you want to do is you got to create the other sides of the box. Why don't you try to create the left-hand side of the box? This time I want a vertical line, not a horizontal line. And so that would be an equation of x equals -4. And then this time I want to restrict my range. That's going to be your y values that you're restricting. I want y to be, you always have to go least to greatest. If you don't go least to greatest, then nothing will come up. Your line will completely disappear. So I could just copy and paste this one. It's going to be the same from -4 to 4. But I want it to be my y values this time. I want to restrict the y. And that's not true. Need to adjust that. So it's actually going from -3 to 3. Okay, create the right-hand side. What's that? It's up to you on this one. So whatever you do to this one, the second one would have to be the same as that one. You're going to click down on the circle on the left-hand side and hold it down, and then it will pop up. So if I just click down on it once, hold it, then that will come up. Creating the right-hand side of the box means I am going to just copy and paste the whole thing. And then change it to +4. The one thing I like about having these in 2 different colors, and right now what we're going to do is we're going to save our graph, and we're going to just put box. Let's put box, and then domain and range. Because that's what this assignment was really about. This exercise was just about creating a box and then restricting our domain and range. We're going to save it. That way you can look back anytime. And if you have questions while you're doing your work, you can look to see how we restricted the domain and range. What was the equations that we were using, the inequalities. If you clicked on the 3 lines on the left, anything that you've saved in Desmos with this account will be there. Anything at all. There's some pictures from other students and other years that they've taken and written equations of. Then you just click it again to close it. All right, I would like to create a diagonal in this box. Can you write an equation of a line? Go ahead. Restrict the domain and the range on this as well. I want a diagonal in the box. So I just took the two corners of the box. I could have messed around with the numbers and just kept putting in decimal numbers. I can do that as well, but we know how to write equations of lines too. So I just took the two corners of the box at -4, -3, and 4, 3. 2 points, I got the slope. I just did the equation on my paper to get the slope. So there's many different ways to do this. Now I just need to restrict that. What am I trying to restrict right now? Am I trying to restrict the domain or the range? I'm going to restrict the domain. And, whoops, that's not what I wanted. You can click down on it and drag it over. Okay, so I want to restrict. I don't want my x's to be any bigger than 4. And so it needs to be less than 4. I'm going to try this one again then. My x's. Could you have done your y values? You could have done the y values as well, pretty sure. Restricting your y's to be less than 3 and greater than 3. So maybe somebody in here restricted the range. I restricted the domain. All right, so there is an equation of a line in my box. What I'd like to do is I'd like to label that line. And so I'm going to create a point that is on that line or close to that line. Let's see, what one would I want to do? I'd like to have my label somewhere in here. So I'm going to create the point 1.5, 1. I'm going to try that and see if that's where I want it to be. Whoops. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That point is not going to show by the time I'm done. But I want that point to be near my line. So you just want to point that somewhere near your line. I can click it so that it's off, so it doesn't have to be on, but right now I'm going to keep it on. And then I'm going to hit label. I want to label this line, but I want to label it with the equation of what it is. And the equation for me is y equals 3/4 x. Maybe you have 0.75x. Y equals 3/4 x. Little tricks to label things on a graph. Now I'm going to hold it down. And I want to look in there because there are some other things in here. I can actually use these to put it where I want it. Do I want it on the right? Do I want it down in the corner more, going down? So you can use this right here to move it around. Here is my text right here. It says it's at 1. I could make that bigger. And then, of course, I'd like it to be the same color as the line. I don't really like it that the Y is right on the line, so I'm going to go back out to where my point is, and I'm going to bring it down here a little bit. Whoops, what happened to Command Z? Whew. Command Z works on this too. All right, I'm going to bring it down a little bit. Yeah, it's better. I can see the Y good. So these are just little tricks of the trade, being able to make a picture. All right, I'm going to save it again because this is, you guys don't remember these days, but back before Google was here, you'd be writing papers in college and something would happen and you'd lose your entire paper. It's not like Google that it saves every single second. And I'll tell you what, using 3.5 floppies and losing your papers, you learned quickly to always be saving, saving, saving. Desmos is the same way. So if you're working on a project and you shut your laptop and go off somewhere, I don't think it's going to be there. I know it will definitely not be there if you click out without saving it. And I've seen that happen on these projects that students put a lot of time in and they didn't save it. So remember, you've always got to save it. All right, I am going to create a new blank one. So just click on the 3 lines and right at the top you have a new blank one. You can hit the 3 lines to shut it if it doesn't shut. All right, what we want to do is we want to upload some pictures. All right, on the plus sign, that's where you're going to upload your images. All the way to the bottom, it's going to ask you, yours is going to be different than mine. Yours is probably going to ask you in your drive. Let's see, I forget on the Chromebooks how yours is going to work. Yes, yours goes right into your drive, doesn't it? You're going to look for your picture in your drive. So click your one picture, positive slope, How about you go to recent at the top right here? See if they get pulled up to recent. Are they right there, right? So click on one of them. Click on one of your pictures. You're going to do all four. Pause it. So let me show you how you do the second one. And I'll be back around for more questions for you guys. So let me see. Okay, what you would do is you would actually shut this one off, shut it off, and then come down in the next box. So shut that picture off. You just click on it. Okay? Just click on it and then go down to a new box and upload a new image. You have to do that 4 times. Go back to image again, upload another one. Yep, positive, negative, 0, and undefined. Let's start with those ones today and getting them on here. So some things with your picture, you can click on it and you can make it as big as you need it to be. So everybody should be on one picture. And you're going to write an equation of a line. Yes. You can rotate, yes, thank you. You can rotate the picture. So if you look in right here, here's my image. I can tell it where I want it to be centered at. And I can say the angle that I want it to have. I can change the width and the height of it. And I'm not sure here. No, you can't rotate there. So the angle is where you'd want to rotate it. And it's in radians. So let's go to the wrench. And then here it will say degrees instead of radians right here at the bottom. So put it in degrees. And then if you want to rotate it, you can rotate it in degrees over here on the picture. The angle is now 0 degrees instead of 0 radians. All right, so now you want to start writing an equation of a line that's going to land on that line that you've picked out in your picture. I'm going to try to do the fencing right here. It's slightly negative. I could rotate it, but I think I'm going to try to just do it on that slightly negative line. So pick a line in your picture. It could be anywhere on there. You're just trying to outline something in your picture. So anywhere that you see that you want to make a line. So wherever you have it centered, now you go down to a box. You might have to scroll down if you have a bunch of pictures in there. Go in a clean box and start writing the equation of line. Y equals mx plus b. That's the easiest one to use. You can mess with the y-intercept. You can mess with the slope. I just wanted to get you guys starting on being able to write your equation. So I'm just thinking of y equals, I'm above there. It's a very small slope. So y equals, it's a negative slope. I want to say 0.1x. And then I want to move my y-intercept up. I can see it's above 0. So I'm just going to say plus 2. Too much. So now I can just mess around with it. I see my y-intercept is too high, and I also see that my line is not parallel to that fence that's below it. So you just keep messing around. Use decimals for your slope. You can do 0.0. You can do hundredths place, tenths place. So I'm going to go down to 1. Getting closer. So how about 0.5? Okay, that looks like it's right on the fence. Now I just got to mess with the slope. Make it a little steeper. Lillian has a great question. And this has to do with the rubric. Lillian asks, where do I restrict it to? So there's 2 things on the rubric that it says about the domain. It says domain is the domain is restricted on the object. If I look at number 2, it says the domain is correctly restricted to the picture, which means it stops here. Okay, but if my fence only went from here to here, then that would be the next one, number 3, where it says the domain is correctly restricted to the object. So there's 2 different, to the picture and to the object that you have. Okay, the object is the goal here, is to have a perfect line on the object. not to be restricted only on the picture. Okay? I appreciate that people restricted the domain, they just didn't restrict it 100% to the object. All right, I'm just gonna go fence to fence because that's where the wiring is. I want to go by ones so I can see what I'm trying to restrict here. You do have to restrict it. There's two different kinds. Some people restrict it to the picture and give full credit